so with all that stress, how did you keep a positive mind on the road? Not just as a road agent, but even as a younger guy throughout your wrestling career.
As a family man, it was
Okay.
hard. I mean, sometimes it was hard not to bring work home with me because you always had work. When I first started in the office, my phone sometimes would ring at 7 a.m. and it'd be Vince wanting to ask me a question on why I did this. And I hadn't even got up and read the agent report yet. And he's already read the agent report and had his first cup of coffee and caffeined up, and he's ready. Why'd you do this? We didn't talk about that. Well, I changed it because the talent thought it was the best. Okay, well, I'm just checking. Let me know, and I mean, it was 24/7 with him,
Right.
But you know what? I made that commitment, and I fulfilled that commitment, and I'm proud of the work I did.
Yeah, it's Vince McMahon goes to bed at 3 a.m., but he wakes up at 2. And
Yeah, exactly. Sleep is your enemy.
We've talked about how much teaming with your brother has meant to you, how important it was, but, even given all of that, did you kind of enjoy your singles run a little bit more just because you felt kind of like, oh, this is an individual accomplishment, like I did this, or
I did. It wasn't I did this. It was, I needed to do this.
Okay.
Roddy Piper, he asked me a question. Your brother's awesome. How do you keep up with him? I said, well, I appreciate you comparing me with him, saying I keep up with him, but there's sometimes you have to got override your want to, and I was saying, I had to mentally for my sake, work hard and get over, and handle it, so it was the same working with Vince, I just had to, I'm a pride guy too, just like he is. I'm very proud of my work, very proud of how I handle myself, and so I'm a stubborn. He always called me one of the most stubborn people he ever worked with, and I agreed with him. I said my wife told me the same thing, so nothing I hadn't heard. But I was with him 36 years, so must have done something right.
Right. That's just. It's really interesting that you talk about just the kind of the amount of pride you feel, because even as a student, like, admittedly, my first few semesters at school, I didn't take it as seriously because I didn't understand the gravity.
Sound familiar.
But then it's like, you just realize that what changed really my perspective was the realization that this is what I'm putting out into the world. And even if it doesn't really matter that much in like maybe 5 or 10 years, it's, this is what you're contributing to the world.
Who knows, Ryan,
yeah.
5 or 10 years.
But it's what you're contributing, and you should, to the world, like, this is your contribution to society. And it's like, you should take pride in it. So I think that's definitely a really good mentality to have for success, and clearly it seemed to work for you, because you won quite a few titles and were quite successful. Were there any ones that really specifically kind of stood out for you?
Well, I as a kid, the title that Danny Hodge was my hero. I mean, we in the same area of Oklahoma, separated about 15 miles. So I was really aware of Hodge all my life, and Hodge was my hero. Hodge was junior heavyweight champion of the world. I wanted to be junior heavyweight champion of the world. I won the title, and I was so proud that I finally, because that was one of my goals when I started in the business, and I finally achieved that goal. And Dusty Rhodes was the first one to hit the ring, because he knew what it meant to me. Dusty Rhodes was the first one to hit the ring when I won, followed by my brother and the rest of the guys in the back that were so happy. So that's really the single moment I remember, and I'm very proud of, very honored to have. And like I said, Dusty being the first one out to congratulate me. But probably, like I said in the earlier part of it, Jack and I's goal when we went to Carolina, we'd never had a world tag team belts, and the only thing we hadn't had worldwide. So we went there to do that and went into World Championship with him, Tag Team Championship with him. It is a memory that I'll cherish forever because he and I did it together. And we weren't, and that's where, people get it so wrong. We weren't Briscoe Brother Tag Team forever in our career. Mm-hmm. We just did that towards the end of our career, but it just so happened that, there were angles going around the country that we would fill in, get in, and the promoters liked it, our work, and so we would end up with the championships, but, mm-hmm. and then we'd drop them some. But our goal wasn't to be a tag team. Our goal was to be great single guys, and we not only accomplished that, but we accomplished being one of the most talked about tag teams ever too.
Yeah, that's just really interesting too, because even growing up, when I would read the textbooks, it was always like the Briscoe brothers, but as I further developed, I realized the individual success. But you had mentioned earlier that you and your brother had kind of made like a tentative plan to team up later on.
Yeah, towards the end of our career, which that's what we did.
Was that kind of like, did you have like an idea that, your body couldn't hold up forever, so it would be smarter to take some weight off both of yourselves like later on, or was it just kind of like, I really just want to focus on myself?
That had nothing to do with it. It just had, just the thing, we wanted those belts. As far as taking weight off of ourselves, that's where I think we stood out and were different. Jack and I were businessmen. I mean, mm-hmm. we always invested. I mean, every place I went, every city I went, I bought real estate. Jack bought real estate. We were investing in with Briscoe Brothers Body Shop.
Right.
We had like over 70 houses at one time throughout the United States that we owned. So we were that's how we were going to take stress off of our bodies at the end of our career and retire on that. Not retire on being a tag team. No.
Right. So your brother Jack famously feuded with the Funks, and you both did as well. But there was that kind of infamous moment where I guess Dory Funk Jr. was supposed to drop the title to Jack, but said that he got in a car accident or a truck accident, couldn't do it, and so there's all this back and forth on whether or not he really got into an accident, or that Dory Funk Sr. just didn't want him to drop the title. So what do you think, or what are your impressions of what happened?
Well, my feeling back then was I thought it was the Montreal Screwjob original, and but after several years, and Jack even after a few years, I mean, and that was part of the competitive feud of the Funk and Briscoes, and that's part of the legend of the Funks and Briscoes. So, in the beginning, I thought it was a work, of course, but after talking with Dory and even Jack and everything, who's to know? And I'm not gonna. I got too much respect for Dory at this point in our lives just to rekindle a feud and say you were lying and you screwed my brother. What's it worth? I mean, it is what it is. It happened. It's part of the legend. It enhanced the legend. And it helped the legend. It helped us draw money for years and years with the Funks and Briscoes.
Well, clearly, I mean, it's one of the most celebrated feuds. But it was something you really said just now was really interesting. You said kind of at this time we don't have, like, I'm just not going to take the energy to talk about things like that. How do you all deal with kind of like the journalism and I guess historical aspect, because even though you guys move on kind of with your lives and your careers and do other avenues, a lot of people just wrestling and those memories are forever cemented kind of like into their daily thought. So how do you really just kind of not necessarily combat, but just deal with like people asking you all of these different things about like all these past feuds that you've kind of just moved on from?
Well, I always appreciate fans asking me questions because that means they were interested in my career. That means they followed my career a little bit. They know a lot about it. So those are the fans that I'll take the time to talk to, that I'll take the time to answer their questions. It's these fans that, these young fans that come up, don't have a clue about anything and ask me a stupid question, and you know what a stupid question is when you hear it, and they know that it's a stupid question when they're asking it. But, if you're going to approach one of these guys, at least have an intelligent question to ask them. You'll probably get an intelligent answer back. And, I love my fans, and I'm shocked that I'm still, my wife and I kind of laugh about it. I get probably 30 to 60 letters with trading cards and action figures and stuff like that a month, that I'll sit down once a month and I'll go through every one of them, and I'll personally sign every damn one of them, take them to the mailbox, put them back in the mailbox. But still to this day, I can look over on my desk right now and see a stack of envelopes that's probably 30 high, which means I got knee replacement coming up next week that I better sign before I get that done, because I don't know if I'll feel like signing.
Oh, right. Well, I definitely hope that goes well.
Thank you.
I'm sure all the fans definitely appreciate it, because it really is just nice when people take time out of their day. Not even just last week, I saw someone tweeted, "Oh, my son's getting bullied," and stuff. He tweeted at Edge, Mr. Copeland, and Edge responds "Oh yeah, I'll send a quick video," and things like that. And it's really very kind of people like you that have that platform to really go out of your way to be kind to every fan and be really appreciative, because a lot of people don't do it. So definitely on behalf of all the fans, we're incredibly grateful for all you do with that.
Well, I really appreciate that, and it's an obligation. And Ed is a fine young man, and that's the thing. Wrestlers have had a black eye for so long, but there are so many quality people in the business that was in the business during my time, and there was some pretty damn shady, damn ass characters in my business too during my time and during this time now. But you know what? That's the general population of the country. In every business, there's assholes and there's heroes. And they're every walk of life. So I like to think we have our overabundant share of heroes that care about the kids and care about things like bullying and stuff like that, and categorizing people. I'm proud of our talent. I'm proud of the direction that these guys have gone. Do I love all the matches I see on TV? Hell no, I don't. I didn't back in my day either.
Right.
But am I going to criticize them? This is the style that you better get used to right now, because it's the one that the people are tuning in to see. And people say, and like Will Rogers used to say about the weather in Oklahoma. If you don't like the weather in Oklahoma, stick around for 5 minutes and it'll change. Well, stick around this business for 5 years and it'll change.
We're approaching the hour mark. I had a few more questions, but I didn't know if you needed to. If there's anything you needed to do.
Well, let's do a couple more. And,
okay.
Your most pertinent one. I'll stick with you about 15 more minutes.
Oh, that's perfect. I really appreciate it. So, you joined the WWE as a backstage worker, road agent in '85, but then, suddenly in the late '90s, after the screw job, you and Patterson, the Stooges, really just have a career like Resurgence. Was that something, you were ever really expected to happen, and how grateful are you for that period in your life too? Because you guys were one of the best acts in the whole company for throughout that time.
Well, thank you. I've been told that a lot, but it happened by accident, just purely by accident, and that's how most really good things happen. We just stumbled upon it. And was it written to be that way? No. Was it talked about to do that? No. It just happened because Pat and I had a reputation of being so close to Vince. Pat and I were think of in the early days of WWF. The Patterson and Brisco were Vince's right hand man, and we were with him all the time, and so Stone Cold started coming along, and so it just I remember the first night that we kind of got classified as Vince's Stooges or Vince's JR, because JR didn't want to use the word Stooges in the beginning. You always use, you go back and listen, JR always got Patterson, Brisco, McMahon's associates.
Right.
And because of the respect level that guys at Force didn't want to call us Stooges, But we were in Chicago, and Stone Cold had done something, so Vince said, come on, we got to have a corporate meeting. You guys, come on here. So all of a sudden we became part of Vince corporate, and me and Pat, we went over in a room, closed the door, and it said corporation meeting, or something like that. I forgot what the hell. But anyway, we did the little 2-minute skit, and it just, the chemistry between the three of us would just it worked. And, and then, back in there we were competing with Nitro, so we were getting like, every 5-minute ratings. You see what spiked what. You see who spiked what, when it spiked, and why it spiked. And so when we came on, I mean, the ratings started spiking, and the next week we had another little bit piece with that, and it spiked again, and then it just kept growing, and it was just purely by accident. And then they started writing it in, and it's just, and I think what the demise was of the Stooges was, Vince was going against Rock and Stone Cold, and they wanted him as the sheer badass guy, but Pat and I started getting over as baby faces, so we thought it was taking some heat off of Vince's character. So it was time to separate the funny guys, the funny old guys, from the mean old tired boss. And so I think that was our demise. We got over too damn good.
Right. Well, was that also around the time? Because I know that you and Patterson both started to get involved with the hardcore title a little bit. Was that kind of a little bit after the?
No, that was basically during the time where that was the time that we were starting to get over, because we're being goofy and funny, and we started getting over. I mean, it was weird. I mean, you can walk out in those arenas in Pennsylvania or somewhere, New York or Boston, and look up in the rafters and see all these Stooges signed, Brisco and Patterson. I mean, it was what the hell, and consider the talent roster: Dwayne Johnson, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, I mean, The Undertaker, everybody, and we were getting over. We had the highest rating of Monday Night Raw ever,
Who wants to see Austin versus Rock when you can see Patterson and Brisco in an evening gown match,
Yeah, no kidding. Well, we won't talk about that, because I won't know the exact highlights of it.
This seems like a Mr. McMahon idea if I've ever seen one.
I blame Michael Hayes, but Vince likes to take credit for it, so it was Vince's
deal. Getting to work with the WWE for so long, how much did you look forward, to WrestleMania every year, and just how much did you enjoy kind of that time of the year? Because there's definitely an extra added layer of pressure, but, it's WrestleMania, so.
Truthfully, I hated it.
Really?
I couldn't wait for the week to be over with. You can't explain to anybody unless they've experienced it how much pressure they're on is that week, and how little time you actually have during the week. And it's not only that week, it's a couple of weeks leading up to it. So that night when that countdown comes, you hear that countdown. Okay, on air, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now the wrestling starts. Now that pressure's off. Now all you got to do is your job, and your job, not everybody else's job. So, once that bell rings, it's the greatest event in the friggin' world, and I love it to death. But that the preparation leading up to it is the most pressure filled lead up you can have in that business.
I imagine so. I'm just, even the normal schedule with everything is just so difficult. But, I feel like a lot of people just put an individual weight kind of on them at that time. Like, what can I do? What do I need to do?
Everybody's stepping forward with that attitude. What can I do to make this better? What can I do? I mean, that's the great thing, and that's what makes WrestleMania is everybody's coming forward with their best thoughts, and the production that event of that week is truly a team effort. It takes from the security to the referees to the ring crew to the announcers to the catering to everybody to make that week what it's become, and they have the most skilled people to do it. So it's truly a team effort. This isn't just this is Vince McMahon or this is Triple H or this is Stephanie. The WrestleMania is truly a team effort. I mean, it's everybody in the truck, everybody carrying a camera, everybody carrying a microphone. I mean, it's entire crew coming together with their best suggestions and their best thoughts on how to make this thing flawless, and they do it a lot of times. I mean, do they miss? Hell yes, they do. But you can go look back, and the majority of times they hit. So.
Right. That's just so true that I think a lot of people don't appreciate just the amount of sheer manpower and effort that goes into hosting that event every year. But so I know you said that the build-up was something you didn't enjoy, but that you really liked the show. So focusing more so on that positive aspect, what are some of your favorite WrestleMania moments that you had the opportunity to see?
Well, there's so many of them, but I got some favorite matches, of course, just like everybody else does, and I got some favorite times, and I WrestleMania, I believe 15 was Austin and Brett. I think that was a game changer match that night, and that when Stone Cold really becomes Stone Cold, and it started hitting it big.
Oh, WrestleMania 13, yep.
Whatever it was. I love that. I mean, when you work all of them, they all run together,
Oh, yeah.
And I loved, of course, I loved watching Kurt Angle hitting Kurt and Shawn Michaels match at WrestleMania out in L.A. was awesome. Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels in the Iron Man match, my kind of match, and I just loved that one to death. I thought that was one of the best ones. Brock and Kurt, out in Seattle, that was a game-changing evening there. And Undertaker, a lot of Undertaker appearances, a lot of Undertaker entrances that were breathtaking to me. And so there's so many outstanding moments that I'm forgetting a lot of them, of course, but those are just some of the stands. The Iron Man Angle and Shawn and just about anybody during the later part of his real great run there.
That main event.
The guy's one of the greatest of all time, and even recently, Edge and Orton. The match that they had last year, on that whatever they call it, telephonic match, or whatever the word is. Cinematic match. I thought that was spectacular. The effort, and people don't realize how hard. I mean, the intensity level those two guys took was just phenomenal, and people don't realize how hard, especially if you're not getting any feedback. or any noise from what you're doing, and to keep that intensity level up and that story going. To me, those guys just showed what kind of true masters they really are. And I love anything that Edge does. I love anything that Randy Orton does. And I think Cesaro is one of the greatest performers that they've ever had in that WWE ring.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And you also just picked 3 guys, that can really just slide into any and every role that you need him to. Like, oh, you need me to be a face? Oh, that's fine. You need me to be a heel? That's fine. You need me to cut a 10-minute promo? That's fine.
I believe the reason why they've stepped up like that, and why they really, to me, they've taken another step in their already fantastic career. But my true thought on this, and this is just my thought, is these guys, nowadays, and I'm not blasting nowadays, but guys work for pops. They want to get the reaction of a pop. They want to get the constant pop. Randy and Edge and Cesaro, they came up that old school way where, there's no people in there. And you go back, you flash back to the old Florida Championship Wrestling that your dad and you watch it as a kid, over in Vero Beach. The audience at the Sportatorium, we sometimes had 15, 20 people in there. So it wasn't like we were getting a 20,000, fan pop and ooh and all that stuff. So we basically had to work, on feel. And I think that's why Randy and Edge and Cesaro said I'm good, because they know how to work on feel. And so they're working on their own pop. They're working on their internal pop. They're not working on some fan's pop that's delayed, So they're able to just keep that transition rolling and rolling and rolling without waiting for that big pop. I mean, they give it a chance to react over TV, but it's you can tell by their body language, just move on. They're not waiting for that big pop. They're just waiting how their body feels, their own body pop. And time to move on. So I think their psychology is just really shown why they're so damn good.
Definitely some of the best to ever do it. Just a couple of more questions. When I was asking about the WrestleMania moment, I was kind of, how much did it mean to you being able to stand next to Jack, especially in Orlando, in Florida, where the state that you've done so much, and being inducted into the Hall of Fame and being recognized on such a large scale for your accomplishments and contributions?
It was thrilling, Orlando, through the years. I mean, was so good, my brother and I. I mean, business-wise and professional-wise, it's just a wonderful place, and it's kind of home away from home here in Tampa over to Orlando, and to go into. You ask anybody, I mean, family's what it's all about. You go in with your brother, I mean, you can't get any better than that. And that to me, that was better than going in by myself,
Right.
So, going in and sharing the night with my brother. And he was so proud, and, that was kind of towards the end of his life. And, and it was kind of, it was just emotional for me, knowing that what his health condition was, and seeing him battle through his health issues for that 2 days that he was in Orlando, and muster up the energy and the strength to finish the weekend off there. So it was an emotional time. It was a great time. It was a time that my family, when I was doing all this stuff, even the Stooges stuff, my kids were still young. And so they didn't, they kind of knew, I was Gerald Brisco, but they didn't know the full scope of it until that weekend, and they got to experience, what the old man was all about, So I'm proud that they got to experience, because like I said, when I was doing all my stuff, I mean, most of my stuff in the early days, they weren't even born yet, but, even as, like I said, as the Stooges, they were young. I mean, Wes was a teenager, and Joe couldn't understand why people were booing me. And it really upset. And so when I finally broke it down, I said, "This is why, because that's my job."
So,
that WrestleMania moment during the Hall of Fame, I had friends fly out all the way from Arizona and to attend it, and so it was a special weekend.
That's very nice. And you mentioned your son's going to the event too, and I know that your son Wes is also a wrestler, and he wrestled with FCW. And when I was younger, I watched him wrestle in TNA, Impact, and those companies. How much did it really mean to you seeing him kind of follow in your footsteps, even with that disconnect of, not necessarily understanding the contributions that you and impact you had on the industry?
Well, I'm very proud of both of my sons and what they've done. And Wes has really worked hard. He's struggled. Unfortunately he's had some untimely injuries that's delayed his progression and all that stuff. And one right before they were supposed to be on 3 months of solid TV with the main roster. But that's the way the business is. That's the card he was dealt. And he's a strong young man. He realizes, that the card just didn't fall the right way for him, and but he carried on the name and carried on the tradition, and from what I understand, he's a hell of a locker room leader, and I'm proud of when I hear stuff like that, because that's where it counts, and back to respect from your peers and everything, and from what I understand, he has a tremendous amount of respect. And what I've seen from guys that are on the main roster that are main event in WrestleMania that he trained with have the same feelings about him. So I know he's a good man, and I know he's a good person. And the same with my younger son, Joe. A USF graduate. Now he's taking a master's course in landscape architect from the University of Florida. So he's a hard worker, and both of them were good, solid high school wrestlers and good, solid kids. So I'm proud of both my boys.
That's very.
My wife did a hell of a job while I was out playing on the road.
That's
playing Stooges on the road.
That's very nice to hear. I know I said it twice already, but now it's very few questions. Sorry, I know this was supposed to be an hour, but what is it like knowing that you and Jack kind of completely shook the wrestling industry twice, especially, not just selling those Georgia shares to Hulk Hogan, but to Vince McMahon rather, but also you two discovered Hulk Hogan. So what is it like kind of knowing that you had such a tremendous impact in those two regards?
Well, I don't, I really don't know how to answer that question, because I don't really realize to myself that I made an impact. I mean, I know I made changes with the business, and I know I introduced some mighty good talent, from Hulk Hogan to Brock Lesnar to some new kids that I just recently got signed that are going to be major stars. I know I've contributed to that. That's why I look at it. I've contributed to this business, and I think I earned my keep, and I'm proud of my accomplishments, and I'm proud of my time there, and I know what I contributed, and I'm one of the few fortunate ones that saw a mom and pop local Connecticut business turn into a global empire, and I've been a major player in that. I'm proud of that, and I'm proud of the company.
Incredibly important role with the bringing in talent. What are some professional experiences, or what's some experience you've had health-wise throughout kind of your career, and how have you seen the treatment and medical care of workers improve over time?
Well, I blew my knee out in Miami, Florida. I'd just come down made the move from Carolina down to Florida and just getting ready to start.
Mm-hmm.
And I was in the ring with a guy that just passed away with a great legendary Buddy Coat. And I was going to put figure 4 on him. And I middle of the card and the match before me, the match got loose. And back in those days, they didn't even tighten up the match or anything. So I went to put the figure 4 on Buddy Coat, and my foot got caught in the mat, and it stayed. My foot stayed, but my body and my knee went the other direction. So it ripped my knee out. So we had no medical care. We had no, we had our own personal insurance, but the company, they didn't pay for injuries. So, and I just moved down here, spent my money, left Carolina where I was making great money, and brought my wife down here, my future wife down here. Just got an apartment. And here the next day I go to the doctor. The doctor told me I'm going to be out for 4 to 6 months. Oh man, what am I going to do? And so we had no medical care at the ring or anything like that. Usually the guys in the back were your doctors. They're the ones that stitched you up. They're the ones that taped you up, and we had no trainer. There was no such thing, And nowadays there's 2 athletic trainers, 2 certified athletic trainers, 1 or 2. I mean, at WrestleMania there'll probably be at least a half dozen MDs there, along with probably a half dozen certified athletic trainers there, and then also neurology people there, for the head injuries and anything like that to take a look at talent. So, as we saw when the King Jerry Lawler, my dear friend, had a heart attack on live TV in Canada. We had a doctor within 3 foot of Jerry, and if we hadn't, Jerry might not be with us today. That doctor immediately went to work on Jerry and saved his life right there on TV. So medical care, and that's all credit to the company. And so, they have plenty of medical staff on hand, and that's something I really, really like about the changes that's happened in our business. These guys are taken care of medical-wise, whether it's a sprained ankle, a broken finger or what, there's medical team there to take care of you.
Yeah, that's really, like you said, just so nice to see the industry improving in that regard. You hear all those horror stories, even within just the last 30 years, and just all the improvements that have been made have been so nice to see in this industry. My father actually had 2 names he wanted to ask you about.
Fire away.
Mr. Mark Bureau and Reverend Billy C. Wirtz. He was wondering if you were familiar with either 2 of those.
I'm familiar with their names, but I'll probably cross paths with them. But forgive me, I don't have a story or a specific memory about them. But
no, it's completely fine. There's so many
guys that you cross paths with.
Right. It was funny. I'd asked him before,
especially Billy Wirtz. That sounds like I should know him. I probably know him.
He has a musician. He does a radio show for WMNF as well, out of Tampa. But
that's probably where I heard the name.
Right. But anyways, I just want to thank you so much for taking the time to do this, and I'm sorry I kept you much longer than anticipated.
Well, that's okay. In life you'll learn. You reached out to me. You're professional. You're polite, and I don't answer. You can follow my line. I get so many questions. Do this, do that, do this. And you're local. You're a journalism writer, and hell, why not? You're a young guy trying to do better in school and trying to do something and tell a little bit of history on what I did. And I'm happy that you reached out to me to do it. Thank you.
No thanks necessary.
And tell your old man hello and tell him I hope I entertain him over in the beach. I love going over there. It's beautiful. 200-mile drive, 130-mile drive through Yeehaw Junction, right down 60, one of the most historic highways in the state of Florida. There's probably got more wrestling stories happen on that Highway 60 going to Vero Beach or going to Florida Turnpike from Tampa than any other highway in Florida.
Well, I'd love to hear even more about them some other time.
A lot of ribs were pulled on that highway.
I really look forward to...
Because there's nothing out there. You can play all you want.
That's... I would really greatly appreciate that if we could talk again later. Because you
all
obviously...
Right. Well, good luck on this. What are we going to be in? Is it the paper? Is it the story for somewhere?
Currently, right now, So when my original plan was to publish it through the USF school paper, but I didn't hear any feedback, so I talked to my professor, and she said to just go to a ton of local papers and different avenues. So I reached out to a few different papers and some websites, and I've heard back from Creative Loafing, and they said that they were interested in the story.
Yeah, Creative Loafing's good, and is Cesaro still around? We were pretty popular with them for years.
Oh, Creative Loafing? Yes, sir. They are...
is that the La Cesaro, too?
Excuse me?
The La Cesaro.
The La Cesaro? Yes, it is.
We did a lot of stuff for them. And I tell you, the local guy, Paul Guzzo, Paul's a good friend of mine. You just might touch bases with him on social media or something and reach out and tell him what you got.
Would you mind texting me that name? You said
Paul Guzzo. Guzzo.
Oh, okay, great.
He's a Times writer.
Okay, yeah,
he's the one that just wrote those recent stories.
Yes, I just read those yesterday. They were well done.
He's a good friend of mine. He's done several stories on me.
Oh, well, fantastic. I'll get in touch with him as well.
Okay, well, good luck to you, young man, and keep me informed on what these things are doing, okay?
Yes, sir, will do. I'll send you any text messages with any updates.
Who else did you interview?
Excuse me?
Who else did you interview?
I've interviewed you. I interviewed Mr. T.J. Wilson. He wrestled as Tyson Kidd.
Yeah, I know T.J. Yeah, great kid.
Tremendous. He was so nice. I interviewed Mr. Mark Marrow as well. And then yesterday I interviewed Mr. Nikita Koloff.
Oh, awesome. A good guy there.
Yeah, he was tremendous. And then he actually put me in touch with... a couple of other talents, Lodi, who he wrestled with WCW, and then he also put me in touch with Jackson Ryder. He's he wrestled in TNA and stuff as Gunner. His real name is Chad Lale.
Yeah, I know the name. I tell you, you maybe reach out to Brian Blair. He's a politician. He's always got a mouthful of words.
Sounds great. Brian Blair?
Yeah.
I'm writing that down now.
He was Hillsborough County Commissioner, and on top of that, the Killer Bees.
Oh, okay, yeah. That would be great. I'll get his information and things as well.
Okay, cool. All right, well, have a good day.
Thank you again so much.
All right, bye-bye.
You have a great day.